What is up, guys? Welcome back to another fancy football video. This video is going to be covering whether or not to transfer Trent Alexander-Arnold out. I know that a lot of people own him, including myself, and I guess at the moment, since he's so highly owned and he's quite a highly expensive player, it's quite important to know before the deadline whether you want to get him out or not, or just keep him. So the news is that he's out for roughly 3 weeks. So I guess, yeah, we're just going to be covering this video essentially the pros and cons of whether you should get him out or not. So let's just get stuck into the pros first. Okay, so the first pro I'd say is probably it frees up some funds to get rid of him. He is 7.6 or 7.7 million, I think, now. So I mean, yeah, if you were to downgrade him, you would feel a fair amount of cash. I guess the only downside to that is it would be difficult to get him back in, which I'll cover in a con later on. But yeah, it would free up some money to get rid of him, as he is the most expensive defender in the game. But then again, he is also the most expensive defender in the game for a reason. The other pro I'd say is probably you can transfer him to like Cancelo or Alonso or Robertson. There's loads of good defender options at the moment. There's just tons. So I guess if you're going to transfer him to a different defender, you want to kind of nail down a similar sort of criteria to what Trent Alexander-Arnold already is, which is basically a defender who can keep clean sheets but can also get attacking returns. So the likes of Cancelo, who plays right back or left back, he can get up and down a lot. He creates a lot of chances. Alonso gets in very threatening positions, or equally you could just do a like for like swap and do Trent Alexander-Arnold to Robertson. So I mean, there are plenty of alternatives at the moment, which is one of the pros of selling him right now. The other thing is Liverpool's fixtures aren't that great. So if you were to sell him, you won't be missing out on too much, because if you just look at their fixtures now, they've got Man City at home, Watford away, and Man United away. None of those fixtures are particularly good, other than maybe Watford away. But then he may not even be ready for that fixture anyway. So it's difficult to say whether you should bother get rid of him or not. But in terms of the fixtures, the near term fixtures, it's probably a good idea to sell him and get him in for a different player. Like I say, probably Cancelo, Alonso, or Robertson. So that's the pros of selling him. Let's move on to the downsides of selling him now. So the downsides would say it's difficult to get him back in, is that once you get rid of him, a 7.6 million defender, it's really difficult to get them back in. So I mean, you would be wasting a lot of transfers, just kind of manoeuvring about in your team when there could be other injuries that crop up in your team later on. So it may be worth just kind of like keeping an eye on him, keeping an eye on how he does. And don't forget, we do have an international break coming up. So if you look at the fixtures now, between game week 7 and 8, we do have a 2-week break, and he's out for 3 weeks, which means that he'll probably be back for the United game. And even if he's not back for the United game, it's not a great fixture anyway. So, I mean, you can keep him. Yes, you can risk the price drop, but at the end of the day, like, you've still got time to get back. At that international break gives you a bit of time for him to recover, and also it means that he probably wouldn't be a risk, going on the international break and potentially getting injured anyway. So I mean, him going on the international break would probably be a risk anyway. So it's actually, maybe it could be a blessing in disguise. The other thing is that when he's fit, he's probably the best defender in the game. I only say that because points wise, he is the highest scoring in from last season, but also he just creates so many chances on set pieces. And Liverpool have looked, now that they've got Van Dijk back, they've looked actually pretty defensively solid, especially at Anfield. I mean, Anfield is basically their fortress. So I do think he is one of the best defenders in the game. So yeah, those are the three main things to consider. Is that he's difficult to get back in. You'll be using a lot of transfers to move him around, and he's only out for 3 weeks when you've got an international break. And then finally, he's actually one of the best defenders in the game when he's fit. He's probably worth the price tag. So yeah, so those are the pros and cons of selling him. It's difficult to make up your mind. Personally, if we just have a look at my team now, so at the moment this is my team, and obviously I've got a lot of injuries in defence. I mean, Shaw might not play, James is definitely not playing, Perico has moved to a different league, and Alexander-Arnold, who obviously is the point of discussion. So I mean, I've subbed in Livramento and White, and the question for me is, should I transfer out Alexander-Arnold and get in Alonso, and then later on I can transfer in either Robertson or Cancelo. So I could afford both of those. I mean, that's the question for me. Is so should I transfer out Alexander-Arnold for Alonso, and then I can get in Cancelo for those 3 good fixtures, and take that will require a -4 hit, or should I just leave it and play Livramento, and maybe take transfer in Alonso next week? But I mean, this is the question for me, my personal team. But if you've got a different question for your own team, you've got a different team, post down in the comments below. I'll see what my thoughts are on it, and see if it's worth transferring out Alexander-Arnold for a different player. Okay, so that's the end of this video. Hopefully it's been useful for you. Very just brief summary. I don't want to go into too much detail on Alexander-Arnold because it's only a brief topic. But just let me know down in the comments below if this is a debate for yourself right now in terms of like whether you should get him in or keep him, because it's quite a big part of most people's teams. So yeah, let me know in the comments below, and until then we'll wait until the next video.